Hi there mate, how's it going? It's Benja here, and this is a breakdown and review of Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 4 titled Horses in Heaven. The fourth installment of the season begins with Beth in jail. Jamie tries to explain to her that she is fudged if the California lady shows up today and officially presses charges, but Beth knows Jamie is capable of getting her out of this predicament. All he needs is a bit of motivation, so she tells him to wait for the Cali gal and stop her somehow. The how part is for Jamie to figure out, and he thinks he can dissuade the tourist by threatening to charge her as well. Jamie explains to the beaten up lady that there is no self-defense in a bar fight, and that she was the one who stoked the flames that caused the fight. It's not clear how that would hold up in court, but until that court date, the lady would be in jail and she most likely couldn't get bail because she's from out of state and thus a flight risk. That is why she smartly decides to return to California instead of gearing up for this lengthy battle, and Jamie convinces the police and the county attorneys to let Beth out with a disorderly conduct offense. She'll have to do community service, and when she complains about that, you see a brief moment of smirking from Jamie, which I found hilarious. It was just for a split second, but it was there. This storyline is the perfect demonstration of the saying that no good deed goes unpunished, because not only is Beth not appreciative of Jamie's help, but she also freaks out in the car after he agrees to give her a ride. The reason for that is the baby seat at the back of Jamie's car. Upon seeing that, Beth goes, quote, "You have my womb cut out of me and God gave you a boy," end quote. Jamie has to pull over as Beth attacks him physically. She tries to get away from him after getting out of the car, but he chases her to say that taking her to that abortion clinic and not telling her about the hysterectomy that would sterilize her is the greatest regret of his life. Beth then asks what the baby's name is, and she loses it again after finding out that the child is named after Jamie. Quote, "Of course he is. That's what the world freaking needs. Another freaking you." End quote. Beth promises to take the baby away from Jamie and rob him of fatherhood, and they go their separate ways, but for a moment there, it looks like Jamie is gonna run over Beth as he drives away, but he doesn't. This was a great way to make Beth learn about Jamie's son. It wasn't just a completely random encounter, that would have been bad, but Jamie and Beth had a reason to be in the same place, so that discovery was well written. Jamie having to help Beth again and Beth not being thankful were believable scenarios, but after more than 4 seasons of this back and forth, it is hard to say that I entirely enjoy their battle, mostly because of a lack of progress. It feels like they're going around in circles. That's fine for a few seasons, but we're in season 5 now. John, in the meantime, is busy firing all of his useless advisors, saving the taxpayers more than $1.5 million per year in the progress, and what prompts this is their contradictory policy proposals. So for example, one of their policies suspends natural gas leases on state land to protect and preserve sage grouses, those are birds, while another policy proposes planting solar panels that would remove sagebrushes in a massive area. Sage grouses live in sagebrushes, so how can these two policies be enacted at the same time? John just can't take it and fires the whole bunch of them. Then, what I'm calling the Wolf Gate continues to trouble the ranch. A park official and U.S. Fish and Wildlife agents have an emergency meeting with the governor to discuss this issue. They believe that cowboys from the Dutton Ranch shot the wolves, not knowing that these were park animals, and the assailants covered their tracks by tossing away the collars. That is what the GPS data suggests. John gives Rip a call in front of the officers, and Rip says nothing happened. As far as John is concerned, that's the end of the matter. However, the officers warn John that the collars are tracked by an NGO, and once they put 2 and 2 together, they'll come after John with both barrels. The governor's day gets even worse when Jamie gives him a call about Beth's legal trouble, and at this point, Jamie hadn't gotten Beth out yet, so John thinks he needs a crisis manager with all of these problems, but he doesn't have one. That's why he calls Senator Linnell Perry and picks her brain over lunch. It is during this conversation that John realizes he can pardon people even a week into his term, though it would be a bad idea to use that power to free Beth if she were to get convicted. But as we've already established, that is not going to be necessary, and Linnell thinks that what John needs is an environmental advisor who can help him deal with these environmental groups, and luckily for him, he knows just the right person. I'm talking about Summer Higgins. Last season, Beth pitted protesters like Summer against law enforcement so that Market Equities would suffer a PR hit on their airport project, and the judge tried to make an example out of Summer and sentenced her to multiple decades in prison. John and Summer had gotten to know each other by that point. They got it on, if you know what I mean. And now in the present, John gets her released from prison and makes her his advisor. Even though Summer warns him that she won't sleep with him, that turns out to be a lie. John's befuddlement during the political scenes and the way he pushes back at political operatives are one of the best parts of this season so far, which is why I like that "you're fired" sequence. And as for the reintroduction of Summer, this was a smart way to do it. Her help is actually needed with this Wolfgate, so there's a reason for her to get some screen time. And I like her antagonistic relationship with Beth. For me, this is much more interesting than Beth versus Jamie. Beth runs into Summer at the house, and these two exchange words. This encounter takes place a few hours after Beth tails Jamie in town. Jamie and Sarah get it on in a bathroom after flirting all night, and Beth seizes this opportunity to check Sarah's purse, and she takes a photo of Sarah's ID. Beth Googles Sarah's name at night, but she doesn't come up with anything, and that's when she hears Summer running around in the kitchen. Time to rewind a little bit and discuss baby John's funeral. Beth and John make it back in time to the ranch to watch the funeral from afar, but they didn't actually know about the ceremony because they were not invited. Here, John warns Beth to control her impulses, and as Beth walks away, she tells her father that she wants to be cremated. Quote, "Turn me to ashes and throw me to the wind. That's all the care I want." End quote. After the ceremony, Rainwater greets John and tells him that even though grief isn't meant to be shared, comfort is. Rainwater also asks John to meet him on the res because people are angry after the cancellation of the airport project, which in turn halted the Rainwater's casino and hotel developments, eliminating 300 jobs for the people of the res. John then approaches Monica, telling her he knows how she feels because he buried his son Lee right here. He tells her a story about his little brother Peter, who only lived for 18 hours after being born early. John's parents didn't want to have any other children after that, and when they held John's son Lee in their arms, John's dad told his wife that Peter lived a perfect life, because all he saw of this planet was his mother, and all he knew was that his mother loved him. The same sentiment rings true for Monica and baby John, and this little story does provide some comfort to Monica. She walks away after thanking John, and he chats with Casey to tell him that he appreciates the fact that they named the baby John. The governor wants his son to hang on to the livestock commissioner's badge for now, until he can find a replacement, because this is not the time to stop receiving paychecks. Later that day, Rip and John discuss Wolfgate on the porch, and Rip says sorry for the mess. They also talk about the fact that John's horse was buried with baby John. They try to figure out why that was the case. Rip thinks the baby might ride the horse in heaven, which is why this episode is titled Horses in Heaven. In reality, Rainwater explained in episode 3 that Casey's son needs a horse spirit to carry him to the other side, and Rainwater also claimed that God would have the horse ready when baby John was ready. So that's why the horse stepped into a badger hole while Carter was riding it, and Rip had to shoot the horse so that it wouldn't suffer. They believe that now that horse spirit is carrying baby John to the other side. I think that the 4th episode was mostly decent. The speech John gave to Monica was excellent, and it made me feel quite emotional. The Jamie versus Beth battle had its moments, but the going around in circles feeling I'm getting is kinda difficult to overcome. And finally, the Halls of Helena always provide some wonderful entertainment, so I'm liking John's stint as the governor. And that's about it. What did you think about this episode? Leave your comments down below, like this video if you've enjoyed this breakdown, and subscribe for more movie reviews and TV show breakdowns. That is it for now, take care and see you in the next video.